Let's talk about scraping. Any suggestions on where we should scrape data from? We're not going to get very far if you don't. It can't be any social media. It can't be a social media site that you need to download or that you need to log into. I tried Twitter the other night, but I found that it was just kind of annoying because of all the graphics that are in there now. It's not just text anymore, and so it's. I just didn't like the way the website was laid out. There's no technical reasons why you can't do it. I just don't think it would be great for demonstration purposes.
About like YouTube?
YouTube? Sure, let's take a look. Yeah, that's a good example. So, let's see, what should I search for?
Cat video.
Cat videos. I actually thought about doing this specifically. All right, so let's say you wanted to scrape the this from this URL. So you search for cat videos, and you want to find the top 10 or so results. It looks like we've got different ones. It looks like there's some at the top, and then later it says some that are recommended for me. So let's go ahead and inspect to see more information about this. So were you guys? Was everybody here yesterday? We saw a little bit about this inspecting. All right, so let's see if we can find, it looks like each of these search results is probably going to be a unit in some sort of list. So let's find how to pick out each individual unit, and then from each of those units, we'll pick out particular information like the title and maybe when it was posted and the number of views. So we see now in the hierarchy of the document, this is all part of an anchor tag. It's at this address and it has this title. There's probably also some data in there. Yeah, here we go, some text inside. So we can extract that. But this is part of a larger unit. If I scroll up, it looks like this list item here holds this whole chunk of data. So this is a list item, and let's close that, collapse that. It looks like each one of these is a list item, so they probably are all organized the same way. It looks like I'm getting a list item above everything, so I want to make sure that I don't include that one in the results. Well, that looks like it's not very important. Let's see, how can we pick this out? All these list items are in an ordered list. It has ID, item section 930736. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that that's specific to this particular page. And if I go to the next page of results, maybe that same ID is not going to work. Although it does have class item section. So maybe we can use that class name and refer to it. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll look for an ordered list on the page with class item section. Within that, we're going to look at the list items. And within those list items, well, actually, there's only list items in there. So within that, let's look for links, which are of class YT Unix section. No, that doesn't look right. So the process of going through and figuring out what to look for is somewhat difficult. I think we've got the top level right. We want to look for that order list with that class name. It's kind of difficult to figure out what. I don't think that we can look just for all anchors because there's probably more A tags, other anchors here. So let's see what this is. This is probably an anchor as well. Yeah, this is also an anchor. So we can't just look for A tags that are within it. Although maybe we can look for the first A tag. Maybe this is the first A tag that's within each list item. Right? I think we saw in the CSS selectors you can look, you can get just the first thing that's within another thing. So let's try that. Let's open up a scrapey shell. Scrapey shell, and we'll go to this website. We'll test it out. Test out our idea. Let's see what the response is. Make sure it's good. Okay, so that looks like it's going to be okay. Now, what do we say? We said we're looking for an ordered list of class item section. So within that response, I'm going to call CSS function on ordered list item section. And it only returns one thing, and that's good, because I was hoping that there's only one ordered list with that class on the page, and that's going to contain all those list items, which are their individual results. Do you have questions so far?
I don't have a question. I just feel like I wouldn't be able to do this.
Wouldn't be able to do it? Well, that's why I'm showing you, and by seeing it a few times, hopefully you'll get the experience. But it's all figuring it out on the fly. There's not a step-by-step procedure. I spent a lot of time with it the first time. I didn't know much about these different things, and it took a lot of practice, but eventually got it. I believe you can too. Okay, so we found that single ordered list. Within it, it has a bunch of list items, so let's get all the list items out of that. I'll call that X. So let's see how many of those I have. 109. Huh. There's more list items than I thought in that list. That's a little funny. I thought there were only going to be this many. Class item section. So I see fewer than 109. That's confusing to me. Well, let's see if the first, one is what we thought it was. All right, let's open it up. You picked a hard one. So this is not going to be very smooth. Let's see. I'm going to look at the 0th list item. I'm going to try some additional CSS. Let's make sure. Well, actually, let's look at the entire text of this one here. Oh, that's probably going to be too long. Goodness.
Can we switch
Complicated thing.
websites?
What's that?
Can we switch websites to make it simpler?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Can we do maybe Wikipedia?
Sorry, what?
Would
Wikipedia?
Wikipedia be easier?
Wikipedia is easier. Okay. Try that. All right, we'll start with a simpler one, and then maybe I'll do an example of that in another recording. All right, what do you want me to search for? Something that's going to have a long list because we want to automate some sort of process dealing with structured data. Cats.
Cool.
Let's see. We have. I'm looking for a list of them.
Maybe you should look cat breeds.
What's that?
Maybe you should look cat breeds.
Cat breeds? Sure.
Yeah, and it'll give you the list.
List of cat breeds. Perfect. Oh, that's great. Nice table. I like that. All right, good idea. All right, so instead we are going to find, let's see if we can extract like the breed name, the country, the origin. This should be a lot easier. All right, so let's go to inspect. Oh, don't you like that? That looks a lot prettier too. It's not nearly as far over to the right, so I know that I'm not as deeply nested within the page. All right, so this piece of information here that I just clicked on, oh, gotta inspect that again. That's in an anchor. So it's a text and an anchor within a piece of table data. It looks like each of these TDs, or short for table data, is one of these elements. These are the columns, and each of these is the rows. So that's nice. But there's probably more than one T body within the, so we probably are looking for the table of class wiki table. Let's see if there's more than one of those on the page. Hopefully there's only one. So, scrapey, shell. Oops. Alright, so we said response.css, we're looking for a table of class wiki table. Yeah, there's only one thing that we get. That's good. Alright, within that, we have a bunch of TRs. So let's look for the TRs. So we say a descendant of that is the table rows. I'm going to save that in a variable called x. Let's look, see how long it is. 98. Do we think we have about 98 reads here? Yeah, I bet. That seems reasonable. So each of those, x element 0, let's say, is going to have a TD tag in it. We saw. Or, yeah, because we've got a list of all these rows, and now we're looking for the TD inside it. Specifically, it's got, actually each one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 TDs. So let's make sure that's correct. Let's look for all the table datas within each, this 0th table row. Oh, there's nothing.
How did you know it was called wiki table?
How did I know it was called wiki table? Because it shows it up here.
Oh, but that's sort of bold shape.
Yeah, I can it has multiple class designations. So I can do any one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so 0 is pointing to something like a bucket, like it didn't make.
Well, let's see. X element 0. She says maybe it's pointing to something else, but it looks like this is the first TR. Oh, you're right. Look at that. Yeah, there's another TR here. Yeah, so we're not looking for the 0th TR, we're looking for the first. Good call. All right, so let's look for X element 1. Oops. Yeah, good call. Now there's 7 things, 7 results. Awesome. See, you're figuring it out. All right, and yeah, it says Ethiopia, natural standard, all these pieces of information that were right here. All right, so let's see if we can start grabbing them. I guess let's get just the breed and maybe the country just to keep things simple for now. So here's what I'll do is I think I've got my XPath ideas already. Let's see how we write them in Scrapey. I'm going to go to navigate to the folder on my computer where I want the project folder to go, and then we do Scrapey start project, and then the name of the project, so I'll call it cats. It creates that. So here in the Z drive, Scrapey test, cats, and let's create a spider here. So I'm going to go to the Scrapey tutorial and copy and paste the code of one of the spiders that I think is easy to modify. Eventually. So I want to get down, so this first one wasn't very useful. I don't think that one's going to be super easy to modify to my needs. I think I want one of the later ones where we actually start extracting stuff. Yeah, here we go. This should do it. So I'll copy this one over. All right. So we want to import Scrapey. I'm going to call this cat spider. You can name it whatever you want. I'll call it cats. This is the thing that we're going to end up typing in when we tell Scrapey to crawl. I don't know how it finds it, but it does. So when we say Scrapey crawl, we'll say cats. We won't say cat spider. We won't write the name of the project. We'll write Scrapey crawl cats, the name that we put in here. The URLs that it's allowed to go to, or it starts with, we're going to go to the list of cat breeds. And then in our parse method, so it gets the same response that I get when I go to the Scrapey shell. So the first thing that I'll do is I will get all the table rows, all the TRs, and I'll do that by saying, let's see, all the rows, I'll get response.css, give me from that table of class, what was it called? Table of class wiki table. Give me all the TRs. I'm going to save this now. This goes here, the Scrapey test, cats, spiders. So it goes in the spiders folder. We'll call it cat spider.py. Looks like I have, okay. So I've got my rows. I don't want to search the first one. I'll search for every row in rows from 1 on, because we don't want the first one. We're going to get some stuff out of it. So let's see. We're going to yield, oh, we need to figure out how to yield individual pieces of information. So I've got my first row. I said CSS PD, so all the table data is going to be returned here. We call that Y. And Y element 0 is that first one. We can extract the text out of it by saying CSS, I want the text, and I want you to extract it. There we go. And I think because all of these are going to have only one piece of text, we can extract first. And that's just a string. Does that make sense? So whenever we create, by the way, whenever we call CSS again, it's like within the previous result, we want to get something else. And you've already seen this double colon text. That means the stuff that's between the tags. So when the tags are written like, you know, this is a, I guess this is a TD tag, right? There's some stuff that's written inside here. And that's this is referred to by saying text. So whenever that's what you want. So let's get those things. Actually, we can probably do this a little bit more efficiently if we said X element 1, we want all the text from each of the table datas, we want the text. I think there needs to be a space there. Actually, I'm not really sure. Yeah, give me the text from each of the table datas. Does that make sense? It's funny how it works like that, but this says, give me the text from all of the table datas. Extract each of them in a list.
What was X?
X element 1. X element 1 was the first row. Row number 1, I should say. You told me that the 0th row was no good. So we're looking at the first row, look at all the TDs inside, and get all the text out of them, which means the content in between, extract that stuff. Put it in a list for me.
Rather than just saying Y gets the specific part of the row?
Yeah, I guess what I was saying then, as I said, hey, let's get all the table datas, and we'll store that in Y. So each one of these Y's, elements in Y is a selector, and then I could call text on each of those. So you've got options, whether you want to extract a bunch of selectors and then get the text from each of those, or if you want to do it all in one fell swoop. So there's multiple ways of doing it, and you can choose either one. I think that by exploring, you'll find which one you prefer. Sometimes I think that going one level at a time and keep on calling CSS on the results you get back is maybe the more organized way of doing it and might help you think through it better. But it's possible to write maybe a little bit more efficient and shorter code by writing exactly the right CSS selector. Okay, so the text that's in those things, Ethiopia, natural standard, ooh, looks like actually we're not getting Abyssinian here. That's unusual. I wanted to get that, and I'm not getting that now. Now I am. Because I put a space in there. So why did that happen? I'm not sure. I put a, so if I have TD : text, I thought that was getting me the text from all the TDs, but it didn't. I had to specify text after that. Why is that? I'm not entirely sure. That's a little bit more advanced CSS selector stuff. Trial and error. I'm not going to ask you to do very hard things, okay? If you want to become experts in Scrapey, it's going to be a lot more work. And I'm not an expert in Scrapey. I hack my way through it. I've helped my brother. He actually works for the, he's doing some work for the National Forest Service, and he had to scrape a bunch of researchers' names and their papers off of web pages. They wanted him to do it manually. It would have taken him forever and a half, and he ended up figuring out how to use Scrapey. So like, it can be done. I'm not going to be able to teach you to do every website and make you an expert in a short amount of time, because I'm not an expert. But by fiddling around enough, we can end up with the right result. Okay, so let's try to extract that. I'm going to go back to my spider here. I'm going to say, for each of those rows, I want to call CSS, I want TD text, and I want you to extract that all. And that's a list of data. That's that list here. That's like saying, what my loop is going to do is basically something like this. It's going to say, row is X element 1. And now I want you to call row.css td text .extract. And that's going to get some data out. So that's what I'm doing. And that gives me that list that we saw before. And then I'm going to make a dictionary, so I guess put the breed of the cat, and then the country, then the origin. So, oops. Breed, country, origin. What other data did I get out of this? Looks like I got a coat and a pattern out of it. Cool. So that's what we'll grab. Coat. Pattern. And for each of these, we need to return the right thing. So I think this is going to be the 0th data item. This will be the first, etc. Does that make sense? So we're creating a dictionary out of each of those items. So we can copy and paste this code into our shell and make sure that works. See if that creates the, yep, creates a dictionary for us like that. Great. So I think that when I run the spider, it's going to go through that table, and it's going to extract all those pieces of information. We can save it in, so it shows you in the tutorial how to save it to a JSON file, which is nice if you want to load it back up into a dictionary. But you can also save it as a CSV. So I'll just show you that. All you have to do is change the extension. It assumes based on the file extension, if you write .json, it'll save it in JSON format. If you write to .csv, it'll save it in CSV format. So let's quit this. Let's save that. I think that I need to get to the Z drive, CD to Scrapey test, CD to cats. I have to be within the folder, the Scrapey folder that I'm using. And then I type Scrapey crawl, the name of the spider that appears here, and then -o, the output file I'm specifying, I want it to be called cats.csv.
So that line will crawl and then it'll save. Is that right?
What's that?
So that function you just wrote will crawl and then save. Is that right?
Yeah, it will crawl and then save it to the CSV file. That's right. It happened a little bit too fast, so I'm guessing that there's some problem. It says list index out of range. Data 4 is not within range. So let's see here. Oh, I wish I hadn't closed my shell. Shoot. So it's a good idea to keep your shell open until you've got everything working. So we're going to need to type some of this stuff into the shell again in order to, can I see any problem with it? For each of those rows.
Maybe one of the rows don't have.
What's that?
Would it cause a problem if one of the rows?
Yeah, if one of the rows didn't have all the elements. Let's take a look and see if on the table we can tell. Yeah, it looks like there are some rows that have blank, and maybe there's no text inside them. That's a possibility.
Oh, it won't return like an empty string?
Oh, and look at this. This one is going to have body type as well. Huh. So that could be tricky. Let's look at a little bit more carefully. But how about this? Let's modify it and see if it works for just the first 3. So we'll see if we're on the right track or not. So I'm going to modify my spider to not look at all of them. I want to look at elements 1 through 3. Let's try that again. Just to see if we're crazy or if this somewhat works. That looks a little bit better. I see stuff that it scrapes stuff. I do see an attribute error. Let's see if it created the file for me. So in cats, I do have a cats.csv, and it does have stuff waiting. Oh, by the way, every time it appends, it doesn't create a new file for you. So notice that each time we ran that, it did output something. It outputs the names of the keys in my dictionary, and then the things that it collects. So it looks like both times it's been getting to American wire hair before it's been finishing. So let's see what happened at American wire hair. Actually, we could have used that. Then the second time we ran it, we told it to give us the first 3, which it did. So it ran successfully the second time when we modified it, but this time it only caught up to American wire hair. So let's take a look at what happens there. Yeah, it looks like at Arabian Mao, we end up with a blank entry here. So we're going to have to figure out what to do. Maybe what we should do is just basically say, if it exists, put it there.
What about that column in the middle that we can?
Yeah, that's going to be probably very tricky too. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do about that actually, because I don't think that the website gives us any way of distinguishing whether this is there or not. Actually, it might. Well, no, here's what we can do. I know that the website, whether or not has anything inside the table data, it will have those TD tags. That is how a table is created in HTML, is you've got the big table object, then you've got TRs, and within the TRs is TDs. And TD is how it lines things up. So this is a TD, this is a TD, this, even though it doesn't have any text in it, is also a TD. So if it's blank, when I ask the CSS to return the text from it, it's not going to give me an item. But if I tell it to give me all the TDs, and then from each of those TDs I extract the text, I'll at least have the right number of table data, and I can specify which ones I want. Does that sort of make sense? Let's see what the difference looks like. I'm going to go back to the shell. This is actually a really instructive example from that point of view. So let's go to scrapey shell. Oops. Scrapey shell paste. And we can copy some of my code. Rows is all these things. Did you raise your hand? What's up?
I just have a quick question. For the Excel sheet, why did read end up in the middle? Is there any specific reason?
Yeah, so notice how read is in the middle. I don't know, it orders these how it wants to. You have to post-process it in order to get them in the order that you want it. Yeah. Because our dictionary read was first, right?
Yeah.
But, okay, so maybe the better answer is, how does probably this is how the dictionary was created. In Python, the dictionary keys are not always in the order you specified. Isn't that right? I think that's correct. I think we created this and then, like if I create a dictionary, let's see, A1, B2, C3. It might reorder those. Maybe not. I don't know. So I don't know the answer. I don't know how it orders them. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we're going to copy that, paste that in there. No. Oh, we don't have the rows yet. We have to first get all the rows. So rows element 0, I'll call that row. Actually, rows element 1, I'll call row. And then, instead of extracting all of those texts, TDs gets row.css, I'll get all the TDs out of it. So now, at least I know that I get the right number. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is blank, and so we were skipping over to short before, right? But now at least I get the blank one. Okay, so what I think I can do is then get out the TD. And I can say data.css, I want to extract the text from this. There's only going to be one piece of text in each.
So what happens if we extract it from a data that doesn't have the text?
I don't think it'll be a problem.
It won't be a problem.
I don't think so. Let's try it out, right? So
Because it'll just return none instead of returning an error.
so let's see. Data is rows.css. So data of 0.css. Let's extract that. Let's see if this works. Copy that. Paste this over. Okay. Let's do that for each of them. So I think data 3 is going to be empty, right? Let's try that out. I think it's just going to give me an empty string. Yep. Oh, none, as it turns out. Okay, so there's nothing inside it. Okay, so now this is good. I think that we've pretty much modified this. Now we just need to specify the code is actually the 4th column and pattern was actually the 5th column. Okay, let's try that again. I think we can run our spider now. Attribute error, feed exporter has no attribute slot. What does that mean? That's confusing. I'm going to check for errors here. Well, first of all, I don't want just rows 1 through 4. Let's see if it worked. Sometimes it's hard to tell. No, it looks like that did not work. That did not produce any data. I'm going to delete this and run it again and see what happens. Do I get any data out of it? It's stopping as soon as I get to... Oh, this wasn't saved. Shoot. Ooh, 5 KB. That's better. Hey, it was working after all. All right. And let's see, is this the last thing on the list? Are there 98 breeds? Probably. Ukrainian something. Yeah, that looks like that was the last one. So, not the most straightforward process, but what did we do? We did a little exploration when we inspected the document, right? We kind of found the class name of an element on the page that we could look inside. And we kind of figured out that we had repeating patterns. Each TR represented a row in the table, and then each TD represented a piece of information that we wanted from that row. And we found, through a little bit of trial and error, that it didn't work to extract all the text elements because then they could sometimes be out of order. If there was no text in the table data, then it would put them all together in the list with no blank space in between. So we weren't able to put them in the right columns of our spreadsheet. So we said, oh, okay, fine, we'll extract all the table data individually. Yeah.
On Spider, if you just click like the run button, what would happen to all that code?
I mean, it's just a class, right? So it's not going to do anything. There's no executable thing except for what's going on here? Shoot. There we go. Yeah, nothing. It's going to import Scrapey. Yeah.
So there's no point of really doing it in Spider besides the code editor.
Yeah. You just write the spider. Otherwise, it's not Python. Nothing. I think that it's probably written in Python. My guess is that Scrapey is written in Python, and then there's like a batch file that's called scrapey.exe.bat or something or scrapey.exe. Excuse me, that runs the Python program. That's my guess. I think Scrapey is written in Python, but you don't really notice it.
Can we do a more advanced example where we have to go into lengths and get stuff and go back out again?
Okay, let's try it out. So let's go into each of these cat breeds. Let's try that. All right, so let's click on one of the cat breeds. Now we need to find some information on that page that's common to all of them, right? So it might be difficult, but I'm guessing that this table over here, well,
Maybe just a photo.
how about this? We can probably find you can find the photo. You can't download, I don't know how to download the photo itself. I know how you could collect all the links to the photos. But how about this? How about we just take the first paragraph of text? Does that sound good? Because each of them is going to have, so it'll be a description. So what we'll do is we'll recursively go into the page and we'll find that text. All right, so this is a little bit more involved. So the next thing we'll have to figure out is how to get the link here. We grab this text Abyssinian, but we need to grab this link. So notice this table data, we were getting the text that was inside it, Abyssinian. It also has this anchor. We want the href. So one thing that we can do is extract from data 0, the 0th column, we're going to get not the text, but the href. I think that's how we write it. No, pseudo element, no. How is this done? There's
It's
an
an
example. Attribute, yeah. Yeah, how do you write it?
We refreshed it yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I'll search on the Scrapey tutorial. ATTR. Attribute href. This is what we want. All right. Wrong window. Here's my shell. There we go. So this is a relative link to where on Wikipedia you can get to the Abyssinian cat page. You can't go directly to that page. If I type that into my browser, that's not going to go there. So the Scrapey tutorial says, once you get that, you need to call URL join on the page. And that is going to figure out what the full, so let's see. I will call response.url join on that thing. And that gives me the full link. Does that make sense? So we have to call that first.
How does it know what the first part of the web address?
Because response includes the web address that we went to, and it knows how to figure that out. I don't exactly know what the algorithm is. Gosh, I'm not entirely sure because it seems like what was the URL that we went to? I think response.url has that. Yeah, we went to this, and then the relative link had wiki in it. So maybe it just knew that because my relative link here had wiki as well, it's not wiki and then wiki again. I think it just knows from the domain. Maybe it just prepends the domain name onto it. The domain name being wikipedia.org. Maybe it just tacks that on there. Okay, so what do we want to happen? Each time we want to not only, so this gets a little bit tricky. We don't want to just extract the data. We want to extract data for the cat from here first, and then we want it to go into Abyssinian, right? And we want it to extract this first paragraph, but we want all of that to end up in the same dictionary object. So that gets a little bit tricky. So this is quite advanced, but I'll show you how to do it. There's a bit on the tutorial about that. Okay? Turns out that there's like, okay, so let's first see how to follow links. All right. So you follow links by yielding a request object with the URL and then the callback method that you want to call on it. In this case, when we were parsing through this quotes database, it was clicking the next button and going to a page that had the exact same format as the first page. So the links it clicked led it to a page with the exact same format, and it could extract information using the same parse method. Is that the case for us?
No.
When we go to Abyssinian, does that page look like the list of cats? It doesn't. It's going to be a totally different thing. So we're going to have to specify a separate parse method. All right. So let's first extract that. We don't want to yield that. Well, we can. We can yield that. We'll also yield a request.
Oh no.
What's that? Yeah, I guess we can't copy it, right? So we can, let's see, link is, we said A, HTTR, href, right?
Right.
Extract first, that's the relative link. And then we need to do the URL join on it, right? So response, URL join, call that on the relative URL, and we'll get the full URL. Then we want to yield a request scrape your request. So I think we have to import the request class because I think that, let's see, scrapey.request. So I'm just importing it first. We're going to give it the full URL and we're going to give it a new callback method. So we'll call it parse2. How about that?
Sure.
So we're going to define that parse2. Now what's that going to do? So we're going to have to open up a new shell to figure out what to do here. So we're going to quit this. Scrapey shell on this page. And let's take a look at here. So let's inspect it. This looks like it's there's a first paragraph within a table class info box. No, let's see, no. It's within this div. MW content text is the ID. Let's see if the other pages have that same thing. So inspect this one. It's in a paragraph, and that is within a div. That MW content text. Is that the same as here? MW content text. Let's see if all of them are inside the same place. That could be really convenient. Now we can say, okay, so let's see. We want the first paragraph that's within MW content text. That's nice. First paragraph. I think that'll work. Anything else we can do? Yeah. Huh. Yep. Alright, so let's try that. Response.css, we want div, and the ID was MW content text. Yep. And then within that we wanted a paragraph. So this is going to give us a lot of things, probably. But we really are only interested in 0. Oh, look at that. So this doesn't, let's see. The Abyssinian. Did they give me the rest? Well, maybe it just cut it off. So we'll try x0 dot, let's see, extract. So that's all the HTML code that's in there. It's going to be a little bit difficult, I think, to get just the plain text, strip away all the HTML. I don't know how to do that, right? Because what we have here in this first paragraph is a bunch of, this is HTML, this is not plain text. So when I extract the information from it, even if I tell it to give me the text, I don't think it's just gonna give me the text. I can try it out.
Oh, there's probably like a decode function. Decode and
Decode, yeah.
like from NTLK, there's a decode like UTF-8 for Unicode. It's probably a
Yeah,
similar one for
could be.
HTML.
So let's see that actually. We'll see if the text, just calling for the text alone works. Nope, I don't think that's gonna do it. Yeah, I think that the problem, the biggest problem is that these are all special characters that were used to represent the Abyssinian, like, cause the way it's pronounced. So that becomes a little bit tricky. But I suppose we could append all of this stuff together. And that would be maybe, even though it's got a little bit of screw business at the front, I think that we could probably work with that, right? Let's just do that for now. And later you could find out how to represent this a little bit better. But actually you can't represent those characters in plain text. So I think actually we got what we wanted, kind of.
Right. You gotta remove one.
Yeah. So, actually, how do we, I know how to split a string. How do we put all the elements of the string together?
Put it like concat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good idea.
Well, that's obvious, but. Concatenate list of strings, Python join. Ooh, string join.list. All right, let's try that. Let's try joining up. So we can say empty string dot join this whole thing. All right, I think that we got it. So this is actually an interesting question. This join thing, it looks like it's a method of a string, and I have not
The
used
string
this
is
before.
the
but
string is
that's
probably like the
syntax.
separator.
Oh yeah, it could be. Oh, so I guess it's joining that with dashes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we joined it with blank or nothing. So do we want to join it? No, it looks like we did a good job. I guess if we joined it with spaces, then
I think it's like the default.
that would have been nasty, right? We don't want that. Yeah, let's join it with empty. That looks good. Okay. So now we need to, when we visit that page, we need to parse it and get that information. So when we go to that page, what do we say? Our first selector was, we want the div called MW, with the ID MW content text. So paragraph is response.css div with ID MW content text, and we want the paragraph in it, all the paragraphs. So it's going to give me all of them. The specific paragraph I'm interested in is just the zeroth of them. Then we wanted to extract the text from that. So we say we want to join all the text together that's within paragraph. Okay, so that should be the string that we're interested in. And then we want to yield that, but no, we don't want to just yield that, right? Because somehow now we need to tie together all this stuff, and we need to have, maybe add a key to our dictionary. But there's no way, so one funny thing is, within this function here, we can't tell it, right now, I want you to go to the visit this page. Get it back, get that paragraph, return that paragraph back, and come back here and add it. The proper way of doing things is to pass along this dictionary here. We're gonna put that into this request. It goes to the website, it calls parse2. In the response object, we're gonna be able to access this dictionary. We're gonna be able to add a key to the dictionary for the description. And now we're finally in here is where we're gonna put our yield. Weird. So we're gonna get rid of this yield statement, save this dictionary, put it into the request object, we'll get it back in the response, and then we'll be able to add to it in here. That's the way to do it. So, taking metadata.
Yeah, I think that once you convert it from just a word.
I'm forgetting the exact syntax for it, so I'm gonna have to find the tutorial. Yeah, here we go. Field. Let's see. There was a tutorial about this. I think I gave you on the preparation. I think I showed you how you could get to it. Okay. This shows an example of it. This creates a request object, and it passes it some metadata, and that's not exactly what I wanted to do. Let's look in the request constructor. So this is getting kind of complicated, right? All right, so I'm going to try to find the tutorial, because like Scrapey had some documentation about it. Scrapey visit links. Tutorial, maybe it's in here. Alright, I'm pretty sure I gave you some information about this, so I'm going to find the preparation and I'll find that link. Yeah, so let's see. What preparation was this? We're in week 8? 8M? W, cool. Following links, Jason cool. Alright, so I think that I didn't give you that information because I don't expect you to do it. I don't think you're required to this time. Oh, actually, it could be in the assignment. I might have just given that information to you in the assignment document. Let's see. It was an optional thing. I don't think I required you to do it. Using the trick shown here, this is what I'm doing. Passing additional data to callback functions. Okay, so we have this parse function, and it creates a request. Let's see. All right, here we go. After we create the request, we specify the URL we want to go to. We specify what its callback function is going to be. We also can add metadata. An item in this case is some additional information. We can make that a dictionary. Okay, so that's what I was talking about, is this meta. And then you can access that metadata. All right. So, I want this dictionary to be called D. Okay. I want to create this request object. I'll call it R. I'm not going to yield it yet. I'm going to r.meta element data is D. I'm going to put that into the metadata, and then I'm going to yield the request. I think that's basically what I've done here. Okay, yeah. So I've packaged all this stuff up into a dictionary. I create the request, I add that information in D into this metadata that's part of the request, and now I'm going to be able to access it in the response. By the way, this needs to be self.parse2, right? So we got an instance method, yeah?
So the R
Yeah.
is a paragraph, is that right? In R, the equals request full URL. Is R the paragraph?
No, R is the request object I'm creating. It tells, what I'm yielding now is a request that tells Scrapey to go to this website, full URL, and then parse it with this function.
Right, okay.
Kind of like originally, a request was made that sent Scrapey to go to here and call this parse function. So now I'm basically doing the same thing. The first request that was made was to go to here and parse with this. Now I'm creating additional requests, which represents the Scrapey. Go to this URL and parse it according to this method here.
And in the next line, r.meta,
Yeah.
is data the column of the paragraph? The column name of the paragraph?
R is not the column name. What do you mean? R here?
No, the data was in parentheses.
This here?
Yeah.
I don't think that matters. It called it item. It called it item. I'm going to call it item just because it does here. I haven't experimented very much with it. So I don't know why they call it item. I think it's just called whatever I want to call it. I think meta is a dictionary that can contain any keys you want. Does that make sense?
I see.
So meta is some dictionary that's part of the request object that you can access when you get the response object. Okay? Eh? Kind of? Okay. What we're going to do now is, let's unpack that. We've got the response object. We can get the meta information from the response. We want its item. That key from the dictionary, we'll call it D inside here as well. So now we're getting it back out. We've gotten that description. Now we're going to add to my dictionary element description. We want it to be description. That's how we add a key to the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not.
Oh. Oh, you have to do default, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we create a dictionary in the first place. My bad.
Whatever you say.
Python.
Whatever you say.
All right, good.
I agree with you.
I'm teaching 2 languages right now. I get confused sometimes. That's not Java or any other language that I know, but all right. All right, let's read through this one more time. Make sure we've got it. We knew all this worked, right? It created a dictionary with all this information, fine. We also tested this thing out. This was able to get us the relative URL. We joined it to get the full URL. We're creating our request object that says, Scrapey, go to that URL and parse it according to method parse2. We're also going to pass with that request some additional information, the data that we collected from the first website. When it gets into this parse method, it's gone to, say, Abyssinian cat. And we've tested this code. It gets out the description from it. And it gets out this dictionary of stuff here, unpacks that from when we first created it, and adds the description to it. And then we're going to yield that. I think this is, let's see how it goes. We got to cross our fingers on this one because this is going to be a bitch to debug. All right. All right, so let's give it a shot. Let's close this first. I'm going to delete it as well because remember it doesn't overwrite, it appends, which is kind of annoying. Could I press it? Ooh, this is a good sign. We saw a lot of information come up. That's a good sign. That suggests that it went to a lot of websites very quickly. This is 46 KB. Oh, I'm so good.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Dang.
And out.
Wait, that doesn't
Paper laid out.